All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, depending on where you are calling in from. Welcome to today's pop-up workshop, Embracing AI to Connect Your HR Tech Stack and Elevate Employee Experience with Sammie Masley and Alperen Türkol from the team at Leapsome. For those of you unfamiliar with Leapsome, they're an AI-powered people platform for HR excellence and high-performance teams. They automate, connect, and simplify all HR processes across the entire employee lifecycle, from onboarding and performance management to employee engagement and development. For those of you who are new to the TruupHR community, we are a professional platform and an educational platform and professional network for HR leaders around the globe. Just a quick reminder, today's session is a pop-up workshop, so it will only be 30 minutes. Before we get started, just want to give very brief backgrounds on our speakers for some context. Again, Sammie Masley is the people partner at Leapsome. She is a big believer that HR is about so much more than policies and processes. It's about building workplaces where people feel seen, supported, and excited to grow. Alperen Türkol is the GTM lead for Leapsome on the West Coast. He works with orgs to develop their people and scale their businesses. He believes complex deals are simplified through diligence, relationships, and stories. And of course, here at Troop, we are huge fans of both the Leapsome team and the work they do. And that's not just about Troop, but our members and community as well. So big thanks to the team at Leapsome. Today's session is going to be formatted as conversation or a fireside chat. I am going to stop my share and spotlight our guest speakers here today, and we're going to dive right in and get started. So give me one sec. We've got Sammie spotlighted. We've got Alp spotlighted, and I guess I should spotlight myself, maybe? We'll try that. All right. Before I jump in and get us started with the questions, Sammie and Alp, anything you'd like to add about Leapsome or about your backgrounds? Otherwise, I'm happy to just kind of kick off the discussion.
Yeah, no, you honestly did such a great job with the intro. But just want to say hello, everyone. If I've hopefully I've met some of you before at other Troop events, but along with being with Leapsome, I'm also a Troop HR member. So it's kind of exciting to do these crossover events.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you, Sammie. So before this is for Sammie. Before introducing AI into your processes, what did performance reviews and engagement surveys look like at Leapsome? Because although it's been around now for a few years, you guys have been around much longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it probably looked a lot like what many other companies experience. I mean, I'll start with reviews. We didn't really change the structure of our performance reviews too much with AI. I would say we would spend a lot more time supporting managers on how to get their feedback right. So managers would spend massive time blocks crafting this and in our fast-paced environment. What we didn't want to happen is a shift of people just completing the reviews for the sake of getting them done versus making the feedback truly actionable and meaningful. And I think on the engagement survey side, while the setup was really straightforward and we had, well-designed scale questions and open text fields for people to share their thoughts, the challenge was really in making sense of the responses, especially the comments. We would spend a lot of time reading through comments, trying to spot the patterns, summarizing insights for our leadership, and it worked, but I would say it was often pretty slow and reactive. You'd really only see the trends after crunching all the data after the survey had already closed rather than spotting them as they emerge.
And you kind of got into the next question, which was what were the challenges the team faced? Collecting, analyzing. Was there any specific processes you followed to analyze the data?
I mean, the challenges wise, to sum it up in one word, it's time, right? Like collecting all the feedback was pretty manageable. Our frameworks were solid, but analyzing it and really creating an action plan is where it got really time consuming. I mean, looking through all the comments, looking for trends. I'll give a quick shout out to Marie on our people team. We're so lucky to have her. She's our people enablement manager, and she really helped us dive deep into the data and actually conduct individual workshops with each department head on how to create these action items. So I will say, probably from her side, she's going to see a lot of significant time savings on her end to really kind of get the insights that she's looking for. So time is really the bottleneck. It's not that we didn't know what to do, it was just converting that feedback into meaningful action that seemed to be the most resource intensive.
Absolutely. And I just want to highlight something that you said about Marie, who also is a Troop member. It wasn't just HR in a vacuum, it was HR interacting with the different functions within the organization to make sure that all of their needs were accounted for in performance reviews. And I think a lot of the smaller companies that I hear from often get sort of trapped in this vacuum where it's like HR is responsible, but it really needs to be a collaborative effort. Thank you for sharing that. Well, now we know what the bottleneck was. So, at what point did you realize that AI could actually help improve these workflows?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely real, a benefit of being on our people team is that we see these product releases as they come out. So our team gets to test these new features. Essentially, we're kind of a guinea pig of our own tools, which
That's
is
great.
a wonderful thing. But once we started testing the AI features in both reviews and surveys, we saw the results firsthand. I think that's when it clicked to see how much time we could save. Like we could see how much managers were saving, how feedback was becoming more consistent and actionable, and how the patterns in the survey responses were much easier to spot early on. So I think it just helped us focus on the strategic side of things, while AI handles the more time intensive and repetitive work.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So now we're moving completely into this implementation journey of AI. Once you decided to bring AI into the picture, how did you approach rolling it out, especially for the performance reviews piece? And how did managers and employees react to this new technology?
Yeah, again, I think we just have that advantage a little bit that our folks are excited about these product updates, and they really saw it as a tool to make their work easier and also provide more values for our customers and prospects. But we kind of wanted to pair that excitement with clear guidance. So when we roll this out, have your acceptable use policies, really clear company-wide communications. I mean, I'll share a personal example. Even when I was writing my own review, the co-pilot, we call it Leapy here, summarized all of my strengths. It highlighted areas for improvement and even tracked on how these things have changed over time based on my last reviews. So it just made reflecting on my growth like really easier and provided me those like clear insights to act on. And managers loved it too. I mean, in the past, they would have to pull past review data. And if there was a manager change, they would have to ping that manager, like what was going on in the past, where now you can just have, the AI analyze all the past reviews and have a more holistic view rather than just focusing on the last 6 months or whatever cadence it looks like. So I think it just reinforced our philosophy that AI should be a great partner and allows you to work more strategically.
I love that. We need to like post that across the internet. AI is a partner, and it really is because, as we all know, it's as good as the inputs it gets. So, thank you. Now, Alp, we don't want you to feel excluded in today's discussion. So, shifting over to you, I was wondering if you could maybe give an example of how Leapsome AI helped uncover insights from engagement surveys that maybe were unnoticed before.
Yeah, I think there is, I thought about this question, but there's actually a more interesting use of Leapsome AI that I've seen in the last few, I'd say like 2 to 3 months, that if you're okay with that, I'd love to bring up, and that is
Please. Yeah, absolutely.
development and growth. So I think Sammie spoke to sort of how we use it to kind of understand sentiment, but one thing that I see companies that come and talk to us struggle with is as they scale their people processes and as they scale their team size, they have a really hard time enabling their managers to support their team's growth. That's if you could pair each manager with an HRBP, that problem would go away. because typically people partners have a great understanding of their resources, like what kind of things they've invested into as a business, and what their limitations are as well. But that's usually not available to the managers. So where we're seeing Leapsome AI come into play more and more is actually that piece. So I'm gonna actually share my screen and walk the team here through a particular use case. So give me a quick second to pull that up. So I don't know how many of you have already seen the Leapsome platform, but I'm just going to focus on one thing here. So this is the Leapsome platform. I'm pretending to be Leslie today, and I have a team of two, Elizabeth and Oscar. And we've done a performance review. I now go in and we're analyzing the results for that performance review. Can you just give me a thumbs up that everything is clearly visible? Okay. So for example, I, as a manager, can kind of look at this person's growth plan, like kind of like the different perspectives here, look at the competencies and kind of come up with a development plan. But usually AI is going to give us a few ideas here. For example, for Oscar, it says these are great action plans. And what I can do as a manager is I can go to Leapsome's AI, we call it Leapy, it's on the bottom right here. And for example, let's say I like the development plan that's utilize project management tools for efficiency. I can start a conversation with Leapy. And I can say here, I just copied it for you. I like this development plan. I also, as a manager, know that Oscar wants to be a project manager and a team lead. I know that we have invested in linked learning and Coursera. We have a development budget for Oscar that's $500, and he can dedicate like 3 to 4 hours a week for 3 months to this plan. Give me a more specific plan. And when a manager puts that into Leapy, Leapy has full context of your resources, of Oscar's development plans and leveling framework and all of that. It can map out a very particular plan for this employee. And I can continue to prompt it, right? So this is not a one-off sort of prompt, but it's a conversation. And one question that we get here is, but how does Leapsome know what our resources are, what our limitations are, what our guidelines are? So that's now that comes to sort of, we start talking about customizing Leapsome AI, and you do that through Leapsome's documents. So you see here, to me as the manager, it's giving a very specific development plan for Oscar, but it's also saying, here are the sources, right? These are documents that a lot of Leapsome customers will typically upload to their profile, to their company profile. And it can be like a list of courses you have, it can be any guidelines, and that way, that is kind of that people partner, that HRBP that's sitting down with your managers every time they ask Leapy a question, and it's scanning those best practices first. So I find this a really interesting use case because this is now something that you can't do in ChatGPT because it doesn't have your data and your guidelines. But when it comes to scaling the impact of the people partners team, impact of like your learning resources, Leapy is usually going to be your best friend.
Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to add on, like that was before even, I mean, AI was around, but it wasn't present the way it is now. That was one of the things that I loved about Leapsome's platform was that not only did it give you the performance review, but it gave you the tools and the resources to support the developmental growth. I actually wrote an article about this on LinkedIn last week, not specific to Leapsome, but we're out there taking employee data, giving them feedback, but then what? And then it's like just going out into the abyss. So taking those next action steps. And many managers don't have the experience or training to do that. And now it's kind of at their fingertips. So that was a really helpful demo, whether it's Leapsome or some other platform, how people can kind of follow the employee through the performance review lifecycle. And so, Sammie, I'd love to bounce it back to you and see maybe how you can walk us through how you're using it today from HR's perspective, specifically the AI Copilot, because clearly we are in the age of AI now.
Yeah, no, exactly. And thank you, Alb, for that perfect demo. I mean, when it comes to how we're using the Copilot, we've got a lot of the basics down, but we are now able to dig a little deeper. So if I need, the biggest thing is like if I need more context. So if I ask Leapy to pull in historical feedback for an employee or team, for example, I could say, show me how Alice's focus areas have evolved over the last 2 cycles. And it generates kind of a quick snapshot of growth and trends and something that should be followed up on for future cycles or that. I think what's also nice is that Leapy can reference our internal frameworks as well. So like role competencies. So if a manager and I are looking at, someone's career path, we can really look at put in, say, which competencies should a senior account exec be demonstrating at this level, and what kind of next steps would it take to get to the next level based on the competency framework, something like that. So yeah, I think what we're really loving is those actionable next steps. Once we have the summary, we can decide on follow-ups, setting up those development conversations, coaching sessions, team initiatives, like whatever that looks like.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And Alp, I'd love to just hear from you more specifically how you're using those prompts for those aha moments with your team.
Right. I think a lot of it is going to be like how the manager uses it, like kind of like what I showed with the development plan, or sometimes like when a manager is really busy, they get into the platform, they just want to get a quick snapshot of certain things, like what are my upcoming meetings, right? And then lead people pull those up. Or sometimes I'll see people asking things like, hey, like I have a team of 6 people. They're all working on particular development goals or like business goals. Give me a list of all those goals. And then they'll say, I only have 30 minutes today to support those. Like, give me a task list, break it
Oh,
down like 5, 6 minutes each, right? So it's usually those quick actions for the managers.
got it. Got it. Yeah. I mean, look, again, going back to time, right? That's like the one thing that we never have enough of, and to optimize it with something like this. So, kind of progressing the conversation here, you've been operating Leapsome AI for a decent amount of time, I will say. What improvements have you seen? Maybe, again, we know time saved, but quality of feedback, how fast insights come from the surveys, and then those action steps. Sammie, I'd love to hear specifically from you since this is kind of under your purview within the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we can be a broken record at this point about the time saved. But yeah, the higher quality feedback is a big thing. It's really strengthening someone's strengths, their development areas, the past trends, really making the reviews more actionable and more clear. Like I think a lot of managers have a good idea of what they want to say, but it's like how they want to say it. I think that has been the biggest feedback from our managers of just being able to give that structure. And then I think just the faster insights from surveys has also been huge because we are currently in our engagement survey right now. It closes in a couple days, but even in the middle of the process, we're able to already pull like what is being said, and kind of start to make a plan and really be proactive on how we're going to address like what's coming up in the survey. And it's able to act on these things while they're still relevant because a lot of times, say we close the survey next week, Monday, it might take the whole week in the past to go through everything, and then maybe a month goes by and it could not be relevant anymore. I mean, I'm sure many of people on this call work on these super fast-paced companies that it changes quickly, and so I think the speed of being able to respond and act, be more proactive is huge.
I just anecdotally, I think I at least have been hearing it's like performance reviews used to be daunting because they were such a time suck. And, everyone knew the importance, but it's like you're taking me away from doing my regular work to do this. And how do you balance that? But now, because we're able to optimize it, it's become an engine to really fuel organizations and their teams growing. So that's really exciting to hear. Alp, I would love to hear from you. What are you now able to spend time for since you have this somewhat freed up schedule because AI has helped with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a universal fact that no one loves to write performance reviews, right? So for me, the challenge was always to go from like a blank page to something I can share, especially for peer assessments, because I work cross-functionally a lot. I'm working with our marketing team here. I'm working with Sammie, right? And I'm in sales. So sometimes I'll write peer reviews for like 6, 7 peers. So because I don't have to worry about like polishing it and crafting it perfectly, I can really think about specific examples. So I think my feedback is more impactful. And also my review is done too. Like I think my manager is here on this call too. He and I, when we sit down, it's really easy to just look at everything that people said and pick out those specific examples and build a development plan for me. Because I think one thing that becomes really apparent after like 3, 4 years in the same role is like, what's next, right? Like I need to find that here or I'll look elsewhere. That's true for any employee. And I think we're able to spend more time on things like how do I grow myself as a professional instead of like worrying about how do I fill out this performance review and it's going to take me 4 hours to do it.
As you were talking, I actually thought about something that I think is exciting for the organizations as well. Not that this is a light bulb moment, but this idea that now you can take all of the data that you have from all the employees and look at different functions and say, please evaluate any trends across managers or across employees or across the company. And it just within, 15 minutes, you have all of the common points or things that may be discrepancies. And again, as an organization, as a team, that's exciting. I mean, here's my HR geek hack coming on, but like it's exciting for businesses. Sammie, I feel like there's something you want to add.
But like to add to that, I feel like in when we're asked to like pull this data and like put together, the trends, whatever, I feel like it's a constant game of just chasing data and chasing context where we have to like go back in all the Google Drives and employee files and just be like, what, like when did this happen? Because again, like when things move fast, it can just quickly kind of leave your mind. So it's always chasing where this data is housed, like where's that engagement survey from last year or whatever. So I think, even within the Troop space, I've had so many conversations where HR folks just feel this reactive kind of constant versus being proactive, and I think this can really allow us get to this proactive place with the help of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I what I want to kind of hone in on is like everything you just shared is repeatable by everyone on this call. And like, whether it's on Leapsome's performance review or ChatGPT, where you're not going to get as good of answers, of course, because it isn't as specific, we can take what you're sharing now and crowdsource how we're using AI in the performance reviews. So the work that you're doing, Sammie, both as an HR pro and through Leapsome, is just elevating all of us. So thank you for that. So now, as a reminder to our attendees, today is a quick 30-minute pop-up. So I'm going to shift us into the final stage of our conversation here and really just want to look ahead and see what the future is. I mean, surely none of us have any crystal balls, but I'll start with you, Alp. Do you see opportunities to expand AI use at Leapsome, maybe in new areas of the employee journey? Would love to just hear.
Yeah. So for as long as I've been at Leapsome, we've always tried to make performance reviews easier and easier, but the gains are very marginal. I'm going to be honest. Like people still don't love writing performance reviews. That's just like no matter how short they are, if you're doing it quarterly now, you do it biannual, like still, it's really, really hard. So we just about 1.5 months ago, we like had a lunch conversation and we thought, what if we didn't have to write performance reviews? Could we just like talk about this and have AI support that conversation? So we've built what I think is one of the two most exciting updates for me from the last year. So that is going to be, this is my demo account you're seeing now. That's going to be the AI assistant for reviews. So I have the same team. I'm managing Elizabeth and Oscar. I go in to write the performance review for Oscar. There's a bunch of questions I need to answer. And instead of now going through these one by one, what we're doing, and this is brand new, so we're still sort of hearing customer feedback on this, and it's so far been very positive. We're talking to a review assistant that has full context. So it knows about our leveling framework, competency framework, questions, past feedback, Oscar's goals, anything, right? So I can start a conversation with this assistant. So it starts with the context. So it's, for example, saying, I noticed you provided feedback on Oscar in previous cycles, talking about motivation and communication. Let's start by focusing on how he motivates and empowers the team. Can you think of specific examples? This is pulling from a past performance review that we've done for Oscar. It could also be that I'm maybe a new manager. So it's going to tell me Oscar's former manager talked about this and his peers talked about that. Can you speak to that, right? And I'm going to demo this very briefly. There's going to be like moments of silence as this transcribes, so just bear with me. So Oscar overall is a great performer. He does great with motivation and taking ownership. The one thing that he doesn't do so well is communication. Last week, he went on PTO, didn't tell us that he was going to be away. We had to take on his work. The whole team had to work late. The projects were delayed, and everyone was really upset. And now it's going to take this, ask me a follow-up question that's really specific to my answer. Probably going to ask me to come up with like more specific examples. I've done it a few times, so I kind of get a sense of what questions it asks. And it'll ask things like, is it a one-off event? Or has this been happening? What's been the impact? How did Oscar address this? And notice that right now we're at about 4%. So usually after about like an 8 to 10 minute conversation with the review assistant, I'm going to be able to say, now draft me a first response, like a first draft. And it's going to reference the specific questions we covered, and it's going to read the like the form we have for the reviews. It's going to assign the right answer to the right question. So this is one much faster than writing reviews, but also it could just be something that you download on your phone, like you have Leapsome, you're walking to the train, you just talk to it, it's going to ask you specific follow-up questions, right? And then by the time you get to work, basically the review is done and you can accept or reject this and edit this. So we're trying to go from, yeah, basically blocking time for this to like having reviews be ready and being really specific and actionable.
Love it. Magic word, specific and actionable. If only everything could be that way. Thank you for sharing that, Alp. So as we come to the final minutes here, I would love to just hear from each of you. Sammie, I guess we can start with you. For the HR teams that maybe are a little bit hesitant about using AI, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, again, I think it's kind of what we talked about in the beginning of seeing it as another partner for your function. Like use it as a way to elevate HR, to enhance your function, hand over the repetitive tasks, allow it to let you give clarity to your managers, to your team, to be a bit more structured. I think that's like once you shift the mindset of being a true partner, you can drive some great impact.
Thank you. Alp, would love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, maybe I'll have like a more like a it's a bit ambitious, it's a bit of an ambitious take, but um what's what I see happening is like a year ago, people would say like we love AI, but like we're not ready for it, so we're not going to go for it. And then 3 months later, they would come back and say, you know what, it didn't work out with our provider because we got an executive email saying you got to use AI. Um, what I'm seeing is it's gonna come for like it's going to be a requirement for basically whatever we do in the future. My recommendation, my personal take is even if you feel like your organization is not ready for it, I would highly recommend that for any kind of vendor you engage with, you look into their AI roadmap and you look into tools that allow you to use AI to the extent that you're comfortable with. Like in Leapsome, we're at the forefront of this, but also it's very customizable in that you can say we want to use these 3 AI features and block everything else and then gradually get into it. Because what you don't want to do is get stuck in a contract with a provider that's never going to invest in AI and then for 2 years you're behind everyone else. Yeah, that's my
Yeah,
personal, not the company policy, but that's just what I feel.
I would agree, and I would even go so bold, and I hope I don't get in it. If you're not adapting AI or open to adapting it, you're going to get left behind. We looked at the internet, we thought people were crazy. It's just what the future is about. And so it's about finding the right tools. And again, I love to highlight the little snippets, but like test, measure, learn. You don't have to go fully out. You can just try it on little things first to prove the use case, which we know is going to work. So want to thank you both, Sammie, Alp, our attendees here today, Letitia, for making today's session possible. Always grateful to the Leapsome team. I will be sending out a recap email with some key takeaways just to highlight again, and of course, ways for you to connect with the team at Leapsome. For the Troop members that are on this session with us, you can simply DM Sammie in the forum if you'd like. Otherwise, I wish everyone a great rest of your day. Alp, enjoy your wedding. It is great to see you all, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks,
Thanks everyone
everyone.
for joining.
Thank you.